Chapter 20. Aarti was sleeping late on a Saturday afternoon when she became vaguely aware of voices. They seemed to be shouting at each other. Was she dreaming? She'd come in late the previous night and wanted a weekend of peace and quiet. She realized the voices belonged to her boys. "Shut up, please," she yelled, but no one listened. She dragged herself out of bed and walked outside to find Aryan and Amitabh racing their remote-controlled toy cars. "Vroom, vroom! I beat you, Daddy!" Aryan was screaming at the top of his voice. Amitabh gave him a high five as they marched around the drawing room. Amitabh made a trumpet with his hands and made sounds and shouted, "The victor Aryan Agarwal takes a victory lap. Everyone applaud for him." Suddenly, they stopped as they saw Aarti with her hands on her hips and a frown on her face. "Seriously, guys, why can't you go down and play in the lobby?" "Mummy!" Aryan ran to his mother and she took him in his arms. "You're a big boy now, Aru. Mama can't pick you up anymore like this," Aarti said, as she slowly walked towards the sofa and sat down. "Dad can't pick me up either. He has no muscles," Aryan said. Amitabh laughed. "I don't need muscles here," he said, as he pointed to his biceps. "I just need this muscle to work." He pointed to his temple. "That's the biggest muscle we need in order to succeed." He tickled Aryan and asked, "Am I right? Am I right?" Aryan giggled. Aarti said, "I agree too. Now can you keep it down so I can sleep? I get one Sunday off and this is what I get." Her voice trailed off as the boys went back to playing and turned deaf to her whining. Suddenly, Amit said, "I have a surprise for everyone." Aarti was curious. Aryan squealed with delight and ran to his father. "What? What, Daddy? Tell me." "Everyone has to follow me downstairs." Aryan quickly started wearing his shoes as Aarti said, "Downstairs, oh God." Aryan tugged her hand and led her to the door. Okay, Aryan, let me wear my robe first. And call Mom and Papa also, they must be awake. Let me brush my teeth." "Amitabh, you're just too much." Aarti smiled faintly at her husband as she walked back into their room to the adjoining bathroom. Aryan opened his door and jumped up to ring the bell of the adjoining house to wake up his grandparents. Aarti changed into a pair of jeans and a shirt. It wasn't proper to be roaming around in the society's public spaces in your pajamas. There were cameras everywhere that captured everything. The grandparents came out, dragged by Aryan holding both their hands. He pleaded with them to hurry up. "What's all the excitement about?" Aarti's mother-in-law asked. Amitabh had already gone downstairs. As they stepped outside the gate, they heard the roar of an engine and Amitabh calling out from the driver's seat of a brand new car. "Hi, guys." It was a Renault Duster? She knew that Amitabh's passion for cars was unlimited, but she didn't know he was this mad. "Amit, this would have cost a fortune," she said, as her in-laws shook their heads and smiled at their son. Aryan was too excited and bounced around. "I sold the other 2 cars and took it on EMI. Relax, get in, we'll all go for a spin," he said nonchalantly. Aarti got into the passenger seat as Aryan and her in-laws climbed in at the back. She whispered to him, "At least you could have consulted me first. And if you've sold my car, how will I go anywhere?" Amitabh didn't have a reply. "Let's go, Daddy," Aryan said from the back seat. Amitabh took them for a long drive, showing them all the features of his new car. His parents kept commenting how proud they were of their son, that he was doing well in his career and could afford such an expensive car. Aarti smiled at them and remarked how it was nice for all of them to enjoy a new car together. She knew her husband wanted to surprise her and make her happy, but this wasn't the way to do it. Now she didn't have her Maruti to take her anywhere she wanted. But she remembered how Amitabh had always been fascinated with cars. He had taken car decisions for the family all on his own. Over the years, he had bought a Maruti Wagon R that she had kept for herself, a Maruti SX4, a Honda City, a Skoda, and now he had sold everything and bought a Renault. He loved cars more than anything. At first, Aarti had thought it was just a craze. His mad obsession with Formula One, him presenting race cars to his son, purchasing cars for the family and selling them off for better ones. But this was the ultimate. The entire family always seemed happy with his crazy hobby. They went on long drives and enjoyed the smell of a new car. Somehow, today she couldn't share in the joy. She felt left out of his life. She felt slighted. She was tired. There was such a pretense to the entire situation. A happy family, content with life, a new car to show for their satisfaction in life. But today, Aarti felt extremely discontented with life and terribly unhappy with the new purchase that seemed to cover up what was really going on between Amitabh and her. They got back home and Aarti started with the household chores. She told the cook what to make and gave Aryan a bath. Amitabh wandered into her room while she was putting away the ironed clothes. He said, "Is there something bothering you? You didn't seem happy on the drive." Aarti didn't reply. "Tell me," he insisted. He sat on the bed. Aarti turned to face him. "I wish you had told me. Buying and selling cars, financial investments, our joint accounts. You handle all of it, and I don't say a word. I want to know. Your wife needs to be involved in all this, Amit." He stayed quiet while she took a deep breath. "Look, I know you manage our finances well, but I just want to know what's going on. Give me that much respect that I'll understand. I'm in a sales job, for Christ's sakes. I know numbers too." "But you've never asked me before," he said, puzzled with her behavior. "Yes, I know," Aarti said with quiet desperation, hoping he would understand what was really going on in her head. "But I want to know from now on." Amitabh stretched his legs casually before him. "Sure. From now on, I'll tell you. And I was thinking I'd hire a driver. He'll drop me to work and then you can keep the car for the rest of the day. I have fixed timings in office in any case. You might as well roam around in the duster." "It's not about the damn car," Aarti sighed. The tensing of her jaw betrayed her frustrations and deep exasperation. Amitabh stayed quiet for several minutes before he spoke again. "It's about us not having sex, isn't it?" This time, Aarti couldn't say anything. Amitabh spoke in a tense, clipped voice that forbade any questions. "I went to a doctor. Nothing happened. We tried naturopathy. Nothing happened. I've tried meditation. Nothing happened. I even tried alcohol after you told me it helped us conceive. But that only gave me 6 months of a hangover, and still nothing happened. Now I'm happy with my cars, my son, and my comic books. I've let it go. The sexual urge. Until now I thought you had too. You're just reminding me of my shortcomings. You never see the good in everything else I've done. I gave you a choice then. I'll give it to you again. You're free to take it." Amitabh didn't wait for Aarti to reply before he stood up and disappeared from the room. He thundered across the hall and said he was going out for some work before slamming the door shut. His parents and Aryan were puzzled. Aarti locked herself in the bathroom. She remembered when she had seen the hope in Amitabh's eyes the last time, when he had told her he loved her. They had walked slowly back from their coffee date. Aarti had never wanted to hurt anyone. She had just wanted to see what Amit's kiss was like. At 23, she had been stupid and young and vulnerable. An inner torment had begun to gnaw at her. "Well, Aarti," Amit had said, "we're here in front of your gate. If you go in without saying a word, I'll never trouble you again. But if you do care about me, I want to know right now if the answer is yes. Do you love me too, Aarti?" He looked up at her with anticipation. She moved toward him, impelled involuntarily by her own passion. She nodded and whispered in his ear, "Yes, I love you too." Amitabh couldn't contain his joy. He pulled her gently towards him and gave her a kiss on her lips. She closed her eyes and took in the sweet sensation of another man's lips on hers. For so long, it had only been Dhruv. This one was so wicked, so delicious, so sinfully good that she lost herself in Amitabh's smell, his arms, his overwhelming need for her. And only when they had pulled away from each other did they realize that Dhruv was standing right behind them, waiting for Aarti to return home. Dhruv was pained and burning in anger. A glazed look of despair began to spread over Aarti's face. A raw and primitive grief besieged her as she realized what she had done. If only she could take back that moment and not have said yes to Amitabh or let him kiss her. She should have stayed strong. But it had happened, and Dhruv then walked past both of them, shouting at his best friend and girlfriend, "You're both dead to me!" He had turned and looked pointedly at Aarti. "One day you'll regret this and come back to me." For several weeks after that, Aarti had tried to apologize to Dhruv, but he had refused to take her calls. Even Amitabh tried calling him to explain that he didn't mean to hurt his friend, but Dhruv refused to acknowledge either of them. Eventually, they stopped calling him and became closer to each other, not knowing any other way to be. Although Aarti had said she loved Amitabh, it was Dhruv who she missed. How she really wanted both the men in her life. Her heart was split in two. Aarti still missed Dhruv, but eventually she became used to Amitabh around her, showing her his latest comic book or going for drives in cars from different showrooms. It was a new adventure she started enjoying. He truly loved her, and she thought that maybe one person's love was good enough for both of them. He was attentive and caring, and she gave back by doing everything he wanted. Soon she began to forget about Dhruv and fell truly in love with Amitabh. When Amitabh finally asked her to marry him, she readily agreed. Her parents had seen him court her for 3 years, and they loved him. He had a job in equity trading with a multinational firm. His parents loved Aarti and even encouraged her to continue with her job. What more could Aarti's parents ask for in a son-in-law and his family? They readily agreed, and Aarti and Amitabh wed. Dhruv didn't attend the wedding, but he was thought of on the wedding night. When Amitabh and Aarti first tried to make love, she realized that he had a problem. He had been saying he wanted to save himself for his wedding night, but it only meant he wanted to save the secret until he was finally wed. Amitabh was impotent. Aarti realized that she would never have sex again. Dhruv had placed this curse on her, and in that brief moment when she looked at Amitabh in despair, he said, "Maybe you should have married Dhruv." Then he gave her the choice that he brought up again that afternoon. "You're free to leave me, Aarti. This is my burden to carry. I'll understand if you want an annulment." In that moment, Aarti's world collapsed.